Hey everybody, today I want to talk a little bit about ick, or maybe not. I'm not exactly sure what I had going on in one of my tanks upstairs, but we'll get to that. I did have ick going on in my quarantine tank down here in the basement, and if you're not familiar with the whole saga that I went through trying to get rid of that ick, I'll catch you up very briefly, and that is that the last several times I've brought fish home from one of my particular big chain pet stores around here, they've had ick. And they themselves have admitted to me that they can't seem to get rid of this ick that they've got in their tanks. And I've never had any problem dealing with ick. I never considered it anything more than a nuisance. I know a lot of people say that the ick attack is not effective. I've never had any problem with it. I've always used ick attack. I've never had an issue with it. I've used it as directed, and the ick has been treated as directed. It's gone away within a few days, and that's just all there is to it. I've never had a problem with ick. This particular ick just was not responding to the medication. It didn't respond at normal tropical temperatures. It didn't respond at elevated tropical temperatures, mid to lower 80s. I had to get it up into the upper 80s before I actually started seeing any kind of real effect. I also had to step it up to a stronger medication, and I also had to add salt to the tank. I really had to slam this ick to finally knock it out of these fish. But the ick looked and behaved like ick. It started out as a few white spots. Those spots gradually increased in number over a period of several days, and over a period of a couple of weeks, I had these fish that were just covered in white spots to the point where they weren't even spots anymore. They were overlapping each other, and they just looked like they were covered in white crusty stuff. It was nasty how covered in ick they've got. So all of that is normal for what happens if you've got ick in one of your tanks and you're not treating it. That was the unusual part about this. It just simply didn't seem to respond to any of the treatments. But as far as the way the infection behaved, that behaved exactly like I would expect ick to behave. However, I've got a pineapple swordtail in the tank upstairs that got something that sort of looked like ick at the same time, but it didn't behave like ick, and I don't really know what to make of it. I'm not sure what exactly it was, so I'm just going to talk about it, explain what happened, and then if anyone has a similar experience or any ideas or thoughts, I'd be more than happy to hear what you've got to say about it. But I brought home some nearite snails from the same fish store that I've been bringing home the ick that's been in my quarantine tank down here and has been so difficult to get rid of. And now I know that the way ick is, it's not a parasite that's going to be living in nearite snails, or at least I don't believe it lives in snails. I suppose it could. But what it could do is when it's in its reproductive stage, it forms a cyst, and that cyst exudes a really sticky, like a mucus material, and that allows it to stick to the substrate or plants or rocks or anything else that is in the environment. And so it's possible that the snail shells could have had some of those cysts stuck to the snail shells. And when I put them in the tank, I can't say I didn't transfer any aquarium water, but I did take the snails out by hand and gently shake them off, and then I put them in the tank one by one. So I didn't pour the aquarium water in there, but the snails did go right in the tank. And so there is the possibility that I could have taken some of these reproductive cysts and put them in the tank. Now, if that was the case, what you'd expect to happen would be an outbreak of ick, and it would behave like ick. And that's not what happened. For 2 days, everything was fine, and then one day, a couple days after I'd put the snails in there, my wife called me in the morning, and she said, I got some really huge snails here in the tank. Of course, I hadn't mentioned to her that I'd put them in there. So when I went in to say, oh yeah, those are the, nearite snails, I forgot to mention I put them in there. Like, this pineapple swordtail was absolutely covered in the white crusty looking stuff. It was beyond even looking like spots on it anymore. It looked like somebody had got it wet and rolled it in rock salt. It was crusty with white stuff. And it had been 2 days since I'd put these snails in the tank, and no other fish in the tank showed any signs whatsoever of having even a speck on them. Nothing. Even the cory that I have on the bottom, nothing. No other fish in the tank looked like it had any kind of issue on it whatsoever. So in that case, I immediately started treating it with the Ick-X. I did not salt the tank. I didn't raise the temperature. That tank's already a little warm. The tank already sits around 80 degrees. So But again, I didn't raise it into the mid 80s or upper 80s or anything like that. All I did was start treating it with ICX, and within 2 days, the white spots started going away, and within 3 or 4 days, the fish looked normal again. I kept up the treatment for several days after that, and everything's been fine. And no other fish ever showed a single sign of any white spots whatsoever. The the swordtail, even when it was covered in white crusty stuff, wasn't swimming around as though it was distressed. It was acting perfectly normal. It was eating. And, this didn't look fuzzy. It didn't look like some kind of fungal infection or anything like that. It looked like a severe ick infestation. And yet, it happened in 2 days. Now, I'm terrible at keeping track of time. Maybe it was 3 days. But still, it was however long it took my wife to notice 3 nearite snails in the tank. It wasn't more than a day or two. And honestly, it could have been, within 36 hours of me putting those snails in there, she might have been noticing this. But it was a few days at the most. And here I've got this one fish that's just completely covered in white crusty material, which then responded immediately to the ick treatment. So, again, I don't know what to make of that. I still don't know what to make of it. This is almost 2 weeks ago that I stopped doing the treatment. I've been keeping an eye on the tank. I've been keeping an eye on the fish. We're actually treating that tank for cyanobacteria and just general detritus and whatnot in there. I'm doing a chemi-clean treatment on it right now. But everything's fine. Every fish in there is fine. None of them ever showed any signs of having any kind of ick. It was that one fish and that one fish alone. And 1 out of the 3 nearite snails has died since I put them in there. So whatever that means, it's pretty common for nearite snails to die when they come home from the pet store. Now, my quarantine tank down here, I did finally get on top of that. All the fish are fine. It's been over a week now since I've done any treatment, and everybody is still looking good. In fact, I'm ready to do a water change. I'm going to get the tank a little bit cleaned up, and then within the next day or two, we're going to be moving those fish over into their permanent home. Excuse me. And then we'll be doing a little bit of work on the tank, so we're going to do some video on that. So, I don't know what to make of it. Like I said, there's no definitive answer. I have no idea what kind of ick I stumbled across. I still do want to go back to that pet store. A lot of people said, don't go back to that pet store. Don't buy any fish from there. And I really want to. I want to go back. I've got some fish that were fine. But every neon I've brought home, the last 4 times I've got neons, they had this ick that just wiped them out. I was not able to get on top of it. And 2 times that I've brought home the silver dollars. So it seems to be the tetra fish definitely have it on there. I did bring home 2 other fish from there recently. I can't even think of what they were now. And they were fine. But the flatfish, the tetra fish, and the neons, every time they've come home with this ick, and it was that really, really difficult to treat ick. And the person at the store told me that they are struggling with trying to treat it, but some of the things they told me don't really make sense, and what they're doing for treatment should be working as far as the way their filtration system works and stuff. They shouldn't be having the kind of problems that I was being told about. So that makes me wonder if they really knew what they were talking about, or were they just telling me stuff because, just making idle chit-chat, telling a customer what they think they want to hear. I don't know. I have no idea what's actually going on in the store, and that's what I want to find out about them. I'm really curious to find out if they've got some kind of ick going on that's become medication and temperature resistant, because if that's the case, then that's something that they at least probably ought to know about. And if they can maybe take a break and shut their store, shut their fish section down for a week or something like that and clear it out. I don't know. It's just I'm really, really curious about this. I'm dying to find out if I buy more neons from them, are they going to come home with this ick? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the tank back up like a normal 78, 79 degree tank, and if they do have ick, I'm going to treat them as though it's normal ick. And every time I've ever treated ick, with the exception of this last batch, I've never had any problem just treating it with the treatment, and it's gone away in a few days and everything's been fine. So if I get another batch and I start on the treatment and it's not working again, that's going to be something interesting to find out. So make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss that or anything else I got coming up. You just never know what it's going to be with me. So thanks for watching this one. I don't know if that was going to be helpful or not, but I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I'd like to hear any comments, questions, or anything else you got down below. I'll do my best to get back to everybody that posts. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.